Hi everyone, Kevin here. If you've seen any of my previous videos before, especially when I talk about Microsoft products, you've probably noticed that I always start out with a disclosure. As full disclosure, before we jump into this, I work at Microsoft as a full-time employee. Yeah, I pretty much said that in every video where I talk about Microsoft products. My HR department required me to say that. I know, but a lot of you sent me feedback asking me, do I really need to say that? Why do you start every video with that? So I felt like as a responsible YouTuber, I should respond to my viewer feedback. And I've decided to leave Microsoft so I no longer have to say that disclosure at the beginning of my videos. Just kidding. That's not the reason I left Microsoft. But actually, a little bit of an announcement to make. I officially left Microsoft after almost 14 years on Friday, July 17th. So I am no longer a full-time employee at Microsoft. And you might be wondering, well, what happened? Where are you off to? I made the decision to leave Microsoft and I want to pursue my YouTube channel full time. So it's a pretty big change for me and it's going to be quite a journey coming up. And you might be thinking, well, hey, Kevin, like that sounds great. It's always good to be entrepreneurial. It's always good to start a business. But seriously, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. There are massive job losses. Lots of people are struggling. You really think this is the best time to leave a pretty good, stable job? And Microsoft's weathering the pandemic pretty well because a lot of people are relying on cloud services and software. And what I want to do today is I'm going to walk through, first off, all the things that and all the reasons I stayed at Microsoft as long as I did. Then I'm also going to walk through some of my rationale for why I decided to leave Microsoft, why I felt like now was the right time. And then at the very end, I'll share a little bit about what's coming up next. This video is going to be different from my typical ones, but hopefully you enjoy. And I'd love to see your comments and thoughts down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm crazy or whether this was a pretty reasonable and also rational decision. First off, I want to talk a little bit about why I stayed at Microsoft as long as I did. And really the crazy thing is Microsoft has been my work home ever since I left college. And back when I was in school between my junior and senior year, I interned at Microsoft and the internship went well and I came back full time. And it was really the dream job to work at Microsoft. And I've gotten, just over all my years, I've gotten to work on some pretty incredible projects. My last project that I worked on while at Microsoft was I got to lead the Office.com and Office app experiences, which is just an awesome opportunity. When you look at the Office.com domain, this is one of the biggest websites in the world. It sees upwards of 100 million visitors every single month, and it's one of the top 25 websites in the world. Now, the cool thing there is, as I built features, as I built functionality, this is impacting millions and millions of people. And I'm making people's lives easier. I'm making people's lives simpler. I'm help them drive more business. So it was just an amazing opportunity. And not just the projects that I got to work on, I also worked with some phenomenal people. My manager and I had a great relationship. You know, the one tip I could give, especially if you're early in your career, who your manager is makes such a big difference in your satisfaction with your job. Also, along with that, I built relationships with a lot of great people who I'm still friends with now, even though I left Microsoft. You know, many of my friends outside of the company are people who I met on different teams I was on or different partners I worked with. So these are lifelong friendships that I developed while working at Microsoft. Outside of just all the relationships I formed, I also gained a lot of skills that I'll be able to use throughout the rest of my life. For instance, I got to really refine and build up my muscle around presenting. I got to present in front of thousands of people at conferences, at company events. I also got to build up my expertise in experimentation. Whenever we rolled out new features and functionality to millions of people on Office.com, we got to experiment. You know, the funny thing is, you think about when I'm in school, you know, I was sitting in statistics class, and you always wonder, am I really going to use this someday? And I did. I got to put all these different things I learned in school to practice when I was at work. I also learned about building an MVP and getting a product so it's just good enough to put it out there. You start getting customer feedback and then you could continue building on the product. And probably the one thing I valued the most while at Microsoft, and one of the things I found most satisfying, is when you talk to a customer and they tell you about some problem or issue or pain that they're having. And then you listen to that and you bring it back to your team, and then you build a solution. You come up with designs, you code it up, and then you work with the customer to make sure that what you're building satisfies them. And then you actually put it out there and the customer gets to use it. And you just see the delight and how you solve business problems for them. Just that end to end of figuring out an issue and then building a solution. I found that just so satisfying. Now, I've been talking very favorably about my time and very fondly of my time while at Microsoft. And you might be wondering, well, why is this guy leaving? It sounds like he's selling us on working at Microsoft. And it's true. I really enjoyed it, and I likely would have stayed there longer, but I'm going to walk through my thought process for why I decided to leave Microsoft. And this is one of my favorite examples that really helped frame my thinking. But I looked to Jeff Bezos, I read his book, and he had this interesting thing called the regret minimization framework. And it sounds kind of like jargon, but what it means is if you project forward to when you're 80 years old and you look back on your life, what you want to do is you want to minimize the number of regrets that you have. And so I read that and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So if I thought back on my life when I'm 80, what would be some of the regrets I have? And just to give a little bit of context, when I was back in high school, I ran my own web hosting business. And that was one of my favorite experiences, to build something up from nothing to having hundreds of customers. Just such an awesome experience. And one of my regrets would have been if I never started another business again. And so this seems like something I really want to do. And if I stayed at Microsoft, sure, you could build a business within the context of Microsoft, but I wanted to build something on my own, to have an experience like my web hosting company, eMegaWeb, to build something like that again, but even bigger. Along with running my own business, the reason I like running my own business so much is you really have an ownership mentality. When you work for a big company, at the end of the day, everything that you build, all the effort that you put in, at the end of the day, you're an employee. And everything that's built goes to the benefit of the company. And sure, you get a salary, maybe you're a shareholder, so you get some of that benefit. But when you build your own business, all of the benefit accrues to you and the community of customers you're serving. And that's something that's really attractive. I think also along with that is you get the freedom and flexibility to decide where you spend your time, where you invest, what you build. And so by running my own business, I have that freedom and flexibility to do that. While at Microsoft, everything needs to accrue to the organizational objective, to the strategy of the business, and you're a little more limited in terms of what you can do. One thing that I also wanted is time. And who doesn't want more time? You know, the funny thing is when you're a kid, you complain about not having enough to do and having too much time. And then once you start working, it's like, hey, where did all that time go? But one thing that I really wanted a lot more of is having time. And when I think of my day, I sleep, and I'm not going to cut back on my sleep. And then I have a son and I spend time with my son and I value that. I'm not going to cut back on that. But then I had this big chunk of time that went towards work at Microsoft. And that is something I could cut back on. And what I really wanted, it's not just I don't want to have that time to work. I want that time to work, but I want to choose what type of work I do. And so in a sense, I wanted more time so I could decide what to do with that time. And I've decided that I want to put it towards my YouTube business and building my own business. Anytime you work at a big company, one of the necessary evils is there's a lot of coordination that has to happen. So it means a lot of emails, a lot of meetings. By running my own business, hopefully I could cut down on that, where I'm focused more on what is the value for viewers on YouTube? How can I keep delivering value versus the overhead that's needed to basically coordinate and keep people in sync in a larger business. So I'm also looking forward to cutting back on that. You know, it's funny when I think of time, because it's one of my favorite TV shows is Shark Tank. But one of the things that they say on that show is, if you don't want to work 40 hours a week, you have to work 80 hours a week. Basically, it's going to take you so much more time building your own business, but you get this freedom and flexibility that's just so worthwhile. Now, although I'm leaving Microsoft, I still feel pretty secure about it. My wife has a job at Microsoft, so we were a dual income household, and she still has her job at Microsoft, so that makes it a little less risky. While I worked at Microsoft, I also saved and invested a lot, and so that also gives me more security going off and making a move like this. And then lastly, I also think about, I performed pretty well at Microsoft. I had job offers from other companies. On LinkedIn, I have companies like Facebook, Google reach out to me on a weekly basis, asking me if I'm interested in jobs. So there's always, it seems like, lots of opportunity out there. So if this YouTube thing doesn't work out or you stop liking the videos I'm putting out, hopefully there's a fallback for me. But that's one thing that made me feel more confident with this decision. The last thing I want to touch on is just the opportunity. There's always risk in leaving something, but the way I framed it to myself is there's also a risk in not pursuing something. So if I decided to stay at Microsoft, it's a good, stable job. I got promotions every 2 years, your income increases, and that works out well. But by not pursuing my own YouTube channel or other businesses on the side, I might be leaving a massive amount of growth potential and a massive journey and a massive satisfying experience. I might be leaving that on the table. And that almost felt like a bigger risk than leaving Microsoft. And so when I compared those two, the opportunity size, I think, of building my own business is just so great that it almost felt like it would be a bad decision not to pursue it. The thing that really cemented this view in my head is I was putting about probably 20% of my time into my YouTube channel. So I would always work on YouTube on Sundays. That's when I would work on a lot of my videos. And then I'd work on videos at night during the week. And then during the day, during the week, I'd go to Microsoft. So YouTube was about 20% of my time. Microsoft was about 80% of my time. Now, the really just crazy thing that happened, and it's just mind-boggling, my YouTube channel actually makes more. If I look at all the kind of income that my channel generates, it was making more than Microsoft. And so I started thinking to myself, well, what if I put 100% of my time towards YouTube? Can I grow it even bigger? And then also along with that, although I was impacting, millions of people at work at Microsoft, when I put out these videos on my YouTube channel and you just read the comments of how many people it helps, you're helping people understand how to do something, you're solving problems for people, you have small businesses or teachers reading guidelines on how to do things, and it's just helping so many people. And it's this direct relationship with these people who I'm helping. It was even more satisfying than, say, helping, an anonymous million people at Microsoft versus like direct one-on-one connection with people on YouTube. And so for those reasons, it just felt like the clear choice was, hey, go off and work on my own business. That was a little bit on my rationale for why I decided to leave. Let me know in the comments if you think that was reasonable or if you would still question it, or let me know what you would do in my situation. Now you might be wondering, well, okay, so you're leaving Microsoft, you're going to work on this YouTube channel. Like what's next? What are you going to do? Well, first off, my plan is I want to crank out a lot more videos. I want to come up with a lot more videos that will help people do more with technology. I'm also looking at other series that I could launch, and hopefully I could run some of them by you, or maybe I'll put out some pilots in terms of an MVP to see how people react, what people think, and then continue working from there. All I know is you never know exactly what the journey ahead will look like, but it should be fun and I should learn a lot. And I'm really looking forward to that experience. And I'm really thankful that all of you have joined along for this journey, and just let me know what you think. I love to interact and engage with all of you, and I'll have a lot more time to participate in the community. If you found this video interesting, or if you thought it was fun to hear about my journey and why I decided to leave Microsoft, please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this and you're not yet a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get a notification anytime new content like this comes out. And lastly, if you want to see me create any other videos in the future, if you have any other questions or anything else, leave a comment down below. That's how I build my list of videos to create. I take it from feedback that I hear from all of you, the viewers on YouTube. Well, that's all I had for you today. Hopefully you found this interesting, and hope to see you next time. Bye.